We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Reese.
Here.
Councilmember Osk. Nelson.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Schultes.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Butterfield.
Here.
Osmus. Fagerly.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented or amended?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Just seeking clarification, I was surprised to see that we were going to talk budget tonight. And I know that we need to, but I just want to make sure that we're going to have another budget session, that we aren't being asked to finish this tonight. Because that's what we had talked about, was having another budget session to do some more review.
Well, I would think we'd still have another one.
I just want to make sure that that's the plan, because I don't know.
We certainly can.
I think we
I didn't say this was the end of it, by
Okay,
any means.
all right.
All right? Yep. Okay. Is that a roll call or just a,
Just overall, all in favor.
okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, public hearing, continuation of our discussion on assessments. And I'll open the public hearing, and this is only for the owners of properties that had voiced objections at the initial hearing or in writing in advance of the public hearing and recorded before the public hearing was continued. Unless you have additional information that the council needs to hear, you don't have to repeat what you talked about at the last meeting. Anyone wishing to comment, I would ask that you limit your remarks to new statements and information not previously voiced. Once all members who wish to speak had an opportunity, Jared will present his analysis on each objection. And once the council has deliberated and addressed any questions it has to Jared, the council will rule on each objection by passing a motion. So, anybody got additional information? Matt?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Matt Schrupp, 905 23rd Street Southeast. More information that was gathered since last Monday. I had some email exchanges with Jared in regards to some of the lot sizes. The south lot dimension, that's the one that's on the 10th Street. That's a street that the work was completed on with the new overlay and redoing that road. That size is 120 feet. That's a setback dimension. The west property, that's on the 23rd Street. I do have some drawings here too. That's on the 23rd Street side. That property line is 121 feet. So it's 120 feet versus 121. So this 23rd Street, this is 10th Avenue. Also, at the last meeting, there was some information about previous assessments. I did get some information again from Jared. I appreciate the help from Jared. On Friday, he sent me an email. I did pay an assessment in 2010, $2,790.26. That was paid in full as an assessment on an overlay project that was completed on 23rd Avenue. So I'm a little bit in double jeopardy where there's one project done on one side and then an adjacent side, and I'm being assessed on both of them. If the work had been done at the same time on both sides, it would not have been that same amount. I also did some research of the current assessment policy that I found on the City of Willmar website. Section O, number 1 on page 14. As a general rule, residential corner lots will only be assessed when the street that fronts their address is improved. However, in a unique lot layout whereby benefits are derived from other contiguous streets, the side so assessed shall be the side generating the greater benefit. Also, in that same paragraph, all residential corner lots assessed in the last 10 years would be exempt, and assessments for lots assessed in the 10th through 20th years would be prorated based on useful life. So that's a assessment policy that is on the website, so.
That's the old one.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
any questions? Tom?
Yeah, Matt, I recall last council meeting, you said your neighbors was about $900, yours was $6,000.
Yes.
What footage are you talking difference from your property to their property?
So I'm on the northeast corner of 23rd Street and 10th Avenue. A neighbor who's on the corner of 23rd Street and 8th Avenue, it's 5 houses away. Their assessment is $900, mine is $6,000. As I said, my exposure along that street on 10th is 120 feet. On that neighbor's property, their exposure is 137 feet on that same street. Both had the same work completed.
Okay, so your neighbor's is bigger and his is less.
They have more footage along the road that was assessed, and their assessment is $900 compared to $6,000. Correct.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, Dwayne, you got new information?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm Dwayne Amundson on behalf of Calvary Church. Just a couple of items. This past week, I also had the opportunity to review the city's assessment policy, and it was an interesting read. And item C on your opening page is the benefit principle. Assessments must be confined to property benefited, and the amount of the assessment must not exceed the benefit. We contend that there is no benefit to what's being done out there to the cemetery. Then on page 16 of your policy, the lands and property of any not-for-profit or otherwise tax-exempt cemetery association shall be exempt from all public assessments. That's been in your policy for many years. So I guess we're questioning why we were even assessed. And I also understand that there's a state statute that also indicates that on cemetery property. So I want you to take that into consideration, and we would ask that you delete the assessment for Calvary Lutheran Cemetery.
Would you give your name and address for the record, Dwayne?
Dwayne Amundson, 3021 Eagle Ridge Drive East in Willmar.
All right, thank you. You give your name and address when you're up there, please.
Craig Gertzema, 2100 Gorton Avenue. Mainly just a few questions about the assessments before I want to make sure clarify some things. One thing I noticed was if you look at the majority of the objections, they're mostly Gorton Avenue project. So just to point that out, just in case you didn't catch that. In my letter I got, there was talking about, the city portion of the city portion and the residence portions. I was just wondering if there was a grant. Do you know if there's a grant that the city received for any of the projects?
A grant for what?
For the projects, help with the projects? Was there a grant or not?
Not aware of it.
No? Okay. And then, when I'm looking at the Gorton project, was the project laid out in working days or completion date? And if so, have they met those working days? And are they after the completion date? And then what are the penalties that go along with this, if they are after that? And then who's going to benefit from those penalties? Is the residents going to get a share of that, or is it just the city going to get a share of that? And then last, I'll finish my statement then. The last thing I just wanted, and I don't know if this is going to affect my assessment or not, but my driveway was about 18 feet long before, and it was shifted a little bit. My driveway is skewed. If you know my residence, when you're going westbound on Gorton, my driveway comes back to the northeast, and my driveway was wide enough so I could make that turn, because 90% of my trips are into town, right? So when I go home, I got to turn over 90 degrees. Well, they shortened my driveway to 16 feet, and guess what side they shorted it on? The east side. So now I have a pickup and a car trailer, and to make that corner, I'm going to have to go in the opposing lane of traffic, or I'm going to have to go around and come in from the west. So I'm not very happy with that. I assumed that the project would replace my driveway as is. So now I'm getting shorted a couple feet, and it's impacting my usability of my driveway, so.
Okay. Thanks, Craig. Anybody else? If no one else, I'll call on Jared. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm Marilyn Stuhl, and my address is 1412 17th Street Southwest. I am the treasurer and board member for Fairview Cemetery, and I would echo what Dwayne said. I believe there's a state statute that says that cemeteries are exempt from assessments, and so I just want to reiterate that too, that I have also found that out.
All right, thank you. Jared, you ready?
Evening, Mayor Council. In your packets this evening is a memo summarizing the analysis conducted as a result of the objections at the October 16th meeting. I can take them in order however you prefer at this point.
Just as you have them outlined, I would say.
All right, sounds good. The first objection listed is Nicole Cons from 2213 Gorton Avenue Northwest. She objected to the cost of the assessment, and the property's been assessed in accordance with the policy, and there are no changes recommended at this time.
Are we going to,
Yes, you need to make a motion for each.
for each one, and then we'll close the hearing?
Yeah, you discuss each one right now as you're going through.
Okay, all right.
So I'd say close the hearing and then discuss. So close the hearing and then discuss.
So we need a motion on each individual property.
Mr. Mayor, close the hearing first.
Pardon?
Close the hearing first, and then we take the action.
Oh, okay. We'll close the hearing and ask for a motion on Nicole Cons.
I move that we assess the property as presented.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Jared?
The next objection received was from Mitchell Assen, 405 23rd Street Southeast. The property owner submitted a written objection objecting to the cost of the project. We have reviewed that, and it has been assessed in accordance with all properties in the 23rd Street area and the city's assessment policy.
Okay. Motion?
So move.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Third objection, Natasha Knutson, 1725 Gorton Avenue Northwest, did object to the cost of the assessment and indicated a potential financial hardship. We have reviewed it. It is in accordance with the city's assessment policy, and hardship requirements can be obtained at City Hall.
Looking for a motion.
I got one question on that.
Yes, Tom.
That person was notified that they can pick up paperwork at City Hall for the deferment?
No, if the property owner qualifies for deferment, that would have to be something that they work out with the city clerk.
Okay, so it was left go and do that then, too?
Yes.
Can I have a follow-up question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Jared, for those that are listening in the public, could you explain that process and then also address if they were not one of the 13 individuals, or I might be wrong on my number, one of the individuals who objected earlier, are they still able to take advantage of that process?
So I'll take the first part. City's deferment policy, there's some paperwork that needs to be filled out as part of that. Judy might be a little more familiar with that than me.
Yes, for anyone applying for the deferment, you have to meet a certain income guideline, and the paperwork is in my office. Stop down or give me a call and we can mail one out to you. I do need that back, however, by the 31st of October, because I need to have council approve those on November 6th to meet our November 15th deadline. Basically, that is all that's involved in the process, as long as you meet that income guideline.
And they do not have to have previously filed an objection to the assessment, is that correct?
They do not, nope. And
So anyone that's
this-
listening right now,
Pardon me?
anyone that's listening right now could go through that process?
Correct. And it does state that in the notice that they received that indicated the dollar amount assessed to your property.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Just a follow-up question to that. Those dates that you quoted, are those our dates, or those dates for a different reason other than the city?
By statute, we have to have everything certified to the county auditor treasurer by November 15th, and the council meets November 6th and November 16th, which
Okay,
would
so
be passed.
even
So-
this process to defer?
To
has to be
defer, I need
done.
by the 31st in order to get in the packet and on the agenda for November 6th. Yep.
Okay, if no more questions, I need a motion on Natasha Knudsen.
So move.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Fourth objection this evening, Jeremiah Brensdell, 1013 Irene Avenue Southeast submitted a written objection objecting to the cost of the assessment, and we are recommending that the assessment be adopted as presented.
Any questions or motion?
So move.
We got a motion?
Second.
We got a second? Any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Fifth objection, Calvary Lutheran Church submitted a written objection objecting to the assessment cost. Upon investigation and the comments that were previously presented this evening, staff did also identify that state statute 306.14 cemeteries are exempt from the assessment. So we are recommending that be deleted from the assessment roll. And relative to, I believe it was Dwayne that mentioned page 16 of the assessment policy, specifically noting cemeteries. In the latest version, with a revision date of March 7th, 2022, that is not in there. So I don't know if that was a previous policy or what, but that's not in there. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So we need to change that?
Not tonight,
No, not tonight, but
if that's the wishes of the council.
It is a state statute,
Yeah.
so we would be following state statutes, whether it's in our policy or not.
okay. All right.
So we're recommending removal of that from the assessment roll.
Any discussion? Audrey?
Just a question. I believe Mr. Amundson indicated that he had gotten that off from the website. Is our current assessment policy on the website in the right place?
Well, we thought it was, but apparently not.
Make a motion to delete the property from the assessment roll.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, Council, the sixth objection is from Fairview Cemetery Association, 2400 Gorton Avenue Northwest. We are also recommending that the assessment for the Fairview Cemetery Association be deleted from the assessment roll.
So move. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Seventh objection from Anthony and Mary Lepatka, 2333 Gorton Avenue Northwest. Three parts to the comments made on the 16th. First one was that the property was previously assessed for a length of 175 feet on a previous assessment in 1990. Item number two was that Mr. Lepatka indicated that he believed that there was an error in the right-of-way along the project. And then third was more of a suggestion that the city use tax levy for the entire city, eliminating the need for special assessments. Going back to the previous assessed length, based on our analysis, we classified the lot as a corner lot. And in all reality, it does provide the largest benefit to the property owner. The policy, and I think we went over this before, but at any rate, the City of Willmar's assessment policy assesses street reconstruction and storm sewer items for corner lots at 100% of the short side and 30% of the long side. The sanitary sewer and water main replacement assessment items are assessed at 100% of the length of the property's footage on which the utility service connections are located. Mr. Lepatka's property frontage abuts the project on the east and north sides of his property. There's 110.5 feet on the east side or the short side and 300 feet on the north side or the long side. The adjusted front footage for the street reconstruction and storm sewer would then be 110.5 feet plus 30% of 300 feet, which equals 200.5 feet. The water main was assessed at 300 feet because his service is provided from the north side, which is also the length of his frontage along that side, and there was no sanitary sewer assessment because no improvements were made to the sanitary sewer in front of his property. This property is being assessed in accordance with the city's assessment policy, and we recommend that it be assessed as presented. The second item related to that, and I have had conversations with Mr. Lepaka, he provided some documents that were executed a number of years ago, and we're working on refining those. Apparently, the document that was provided was never recorded, so you'll be seeing that at a future council meeting for a request to get that document recorded in the appropriate process following it. So that's that one, and I really have no other comments on the third comment relative to levy versus assessment. So in summary, we are recommending that the assessment be adopted as presented.
Okay,
So move.
we got a motion,
Second.
we got a second. Discussion? Audrey?
Would you just comment about, you said there was no sanitary sewer assessment on there?
Correct.
So, but it was allocated throughout the project?
No, there was no sanitary sewer replaced in front of those properties there.
And
It's
so
in the
they were not
backyard, so they're
assessed.
not assessed. If
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? And I have a motion, I believe. Okay? No other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Objection number 8, Don and Eileen Tweet, 2105 Gorton Avenue Northwest, objected to the cost of the assessment and indicated that they were previously assessed for a shorter length. Based on some analysis and assessment conducted in 1996, indicates that Mr. Tweet's property was assessed at a length of 100 feet in 1996. That does not represent the actual frontage of his property, which is 254 feet. And as indicated on the 16th, his lot does have a curvilinear frontage. So it is 254 feet along the length of that curve. But when measured perpendicularly between the two lot lines, the property width is 232 feet, and that's what's being suggested as the assessment length for that property. And we are recommending that the property be assessed as presented.
Questions? Tom?
Do we know why the fee calculations went up so much from 1996 to today? Or was that how they figured out the property back then?
That would have been based on a previous assessment policy, perhaps. I'm not sure why the footage was so low back then.
Okay.
Looking for a motion, or unless there's more questions? Audrey?
Just one question. I think I remember the amount of this assessment. You're comfortable that that amount of assessment, that property was improved by that much, that much?
I think the property definitely received a benefit from the improvements. In terms of the amount, I guess I'm not necessarily an appraiser in that business to definitively tell you, but there's definitely a benefit provided, yes.
It feels like it's probably one of the largest residential assessments that we've done.
Yes, and one of the larger lots too, yeah.
Jared? Oh, go ahead.
I just have a concern about that, meeting that standard.
Jared, I've got some questions in regards to the Tweet property.
Okay.
Doesn't that narrow down to like a pie shape at the end,
Yes.
and there's storm sewer that was put through his property.
To replace an existing, yep.
Was that an earlier what am I looking for?
It existed prior to the project, yes.
The easement,
The storm sewer and the easement, yep.
okay. But there's no condition that would lower his assessment because of those two items. The pie shape getting down to just a narrow piece and then having the easement there.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a unique, uniquely shaped property. The assessment policy, as written, I mean, I believe that the footage has been calculated based on the policy. Now, given the unique nature of a lot of lots, is a one-size-fits-all ideal? I don't know, but certainly it's in council's wheelhouse this evening to adjust the assessment. Our recommendation is the 232 feet, but certainly that's why it's being discussed this evening for all of you.
Tom?
Is this the one that has concrete in front of the place now, or was that a little bit further up? I thought there was concrete going in there versus asphalt because of, Central Steel,
Yeah. Halfway through. Yep.
halfway through, so. So next time it comes up, there'll probably only be half that'll need to be redone then.
I'm not sure if I'm following your logic.
Well, say in 50 years, concrete portions still should be good. And then it would just be replacing the asphalt on the other end of it.
Yeah, the property owners along Gorton Avenue were not, the assessments associated with those properties were not increased as a result of concrete. West Central Steel paid the increase in the concrete versus the bituminous.
Yeah, but in 50 years, that concrete there still should be good and sound. And then just next time, 50 years, just, you'd have to have the replace of the mill and overlay over the asphalt part is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So next time around, he probably won't have the full footage, would he?
I don't think Don will be there.
Well, the property, next property.
Yeah, I'm definitely not anticipating any more reconstructions in the next 50 to 80 years, so.
Okay.
I can't make a motion, but I'm wondering if the council has any feeling towards the fact that his piece of property goes from wide to narrow in a pie shape, and then he's got the storm sewer that runs through his property, so. If not, we'll move on, but I don't think I've got a motion yet. No, I don't. I don't know what kind of judgment we could make on that and still be within our rights of doing so. If nothing, I'm looking for a motion. Thinking, aren't you?
I guess, Mayor, what is the question on hand?
Well, I just had a feeling that their property comes down to a very narrow piece of property going from the
250.
east edge of the property to the west edge of the property. They're right on the curve, so their property goes down to a very narrow piece, and then they've got the storm sewer easement running through their property.
And in 96, he was assessed for 100 feet versus 232 this time.
There was nothing to tell you why it was 100. Yes, geez, Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The policy, as it's written, takes into account unusually shaped properties, does it not?
As best as possible.
In your opinion, this property is more unusual than others, or you've seen others similar? It's a tough question for you.
I think we have uniquely shaped parcels throughout all the improvements, and that's why the front footage length, when measured, was 254 feet, and the quote-unquote usable, we believed, was approximately 232 feet. So it was reduced from 254 to 232,
So,
given its uniqueness.
so that 22 feet was trying to accommodate for the uniqueness of the property.
Correct.
And is it possible that the number from 1996, it's, no one really knows, like that could have been an error that worked out to the property owner's favor?
Yeah, we could speculate a long time.
Do you remember, John?
I have a question.
Mike?
So he was assessed 100 feet before, and if he was planning on the same type of assessment, and maybe even saving up for the October 31st for 100 feet, even though it's 232 feet, I don't think it's fair. I mean, if that's what he looked at, as it being 100 feet, and nothing had changed, I mean, I would have been saving up for that money because I don't want to pay interest.
Mary's. If I may.
You wanted to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, Audrey.
I'm extremely uncomfortable right now, and I think the silence at the council table is somewhat telling that I think there's lots of us who are uncomfortable with just the process that we've had this year. Last year was a problem. This year seems to be kind of the same thing. This one seems to stick out just from the amount of the assessment, but I think there are others that probably have similar concerns in the corner lots and some of those things. And I don't know what the right answer is with where we're at right now, and the clock is ticking and we can't turn back this year. But we asked to review our assessment policy last year, and I think if anything else, when we're done with this, we need to make a commitment to review the assessment policy, and that the dates are earlier for us to deal with this and for the public to be able to deal with the assessments that are on there. And I'll make a motion when we're done with our assessment hearing, but I don't know how we single out one other than this one it feels extreme. But if we continue on, I think there are some other people who feel similar. So I don't know what we do.
Well, I think this piece of property is quite unique in the fact of its shape along the lake shore and the easement.
But the easement we discussed at the last meeting, and maybe Jared would be willing to review the conversation that took place regarding the easement? Because it doesn't, they can't build where the easement is that correct?
Not over the top of the easement, correct?
The easement, but the lot layout wouldn't allow for something to be built there either? Or does it?
Well, the frontage is approximately 254 feet. I don't have the exact location or dimensions of what is on both sides of the storm sewer easement, but potentially that lot could be split and developed. We'd have to do some additional analysis into that, but
Tom?
How would it work in our assessment policy? If, say we added the 100 to the 232, we come up with 332, we took that divided by 2 for 166 for this round. Or would that affect the way it's in the policy for billing out on this one? We reduced it here by about 70 feet.
I believe that's within the purview of the council to adjust the assessment as you see fit.
Because, I think we can't figure out how he got down to 100 before. This one is, well over double. I would be satisfied with doing it, about 165 feet, for his assessment off of this property, because it does go down to really nothing down there. Nobody can get an answer why it was 100 feet last time, and this time, we're over 2 times. I'd like to make a motion that recalculating that 165 on this property for the feet.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, ninth objection, Craig Gertzma, 2100 Gorton Avenue Northwest. Said that there is a bigger benefit to the city than his property and requested his assessment be reviewed. Mr. Gertzma has a regular shaped lot with 165 feet of frontage. Property received both water and sewer service improvements with the project and is being assessed for the street reconstruction, sanitary main replacement, sanitary service, water main reconstruction, water service, and storm sewer. Assessment's been calculated in accordance with the policy, and we're recommending that it be adopted as presented. Mr. Gertzma also identified a couple questions while he was speaking this evening. One related to the driveway width. We can take a look at that. I'm not familiar with the 2 feet reduction. And then there was a question relative to completion days or working days and who benefits from any penalties imposed by those working days. And ultimately, that would come off of the contract amount. So I believe those were the questions.
Okay. Need a motion?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
On his driveway, how would that work if we did err on that?
And
I
then
don't
we'd have
know.
to take care of it.
Well, I know the
So-
curb would have to be, cut and replaced, but I don't know how far up, it goes up his driveway.
Yeah, we'll need to review it to determine the extents. So
They haven't done your driveway yet?
curb has not been poured in front.
Curb it. But, so it would be an easy fix right now, just cut the curb out and re-slam.
We'll review it tomorrow.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I don't think we got a motion yet. So moved. We got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next objection received was from Bradley and Rose Service, 401 20th Street Northwest, indicating that the property owner indicated that he did not receive a benefit from the Gorton Avenue side of his corner lot and is asking for a reduction in the assessment. Indicated he wanted to be assessed the same as the rest of the lots in the cul-de-sac. The lot our recommendation or summary based on our analysis. The lot is a corner lot. And again, we assess, per the policy, we assess 100% of the short side and provide a 30% credit on the long side. Sanitary sewer and water main assessment items are assessed at 100% of the length of where the property's sewer or water service joins the street. And Mr. Service's property frontage abuts the project on the east and south sides of his property. There's 100 feet on the east, which is the short side, and 220 feet on the south, which is the long, so that it arrives at an adjusted front footage for the street reconstruction and storm sewer items of 166 feet. Sanitary sewer and water main are assessed at 100 feet since his service is from his east side. And we are recommending approval of the assessment as presented.
Okay, questions? Otherwise, a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Objection number 11, Jay Halliday, 423rd Street Southeast, was objecting to the corner lot assessment. 100% of the, again, as I mentioned previously, 100% of the short side is assessed and 30% of the long size. The overlay area was identified by unit assessments with three, because there are three distinct lot sizes within that entire project area. Small lots being assessed at 3,000, medium at 4,500, and large lots at 6,000 with corner lots, the additional $900 in assessment on the long side. And that calculation was arrived at by multiplying the 3,000, the small lot, by 30%. That's where the 900 comes from. Since the small lot amount was used in that calculation, obviously that provides the largest benefit to all the corner lots within that project area. And we are recommending that the assessment be adopted as presented.
Questions?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next objection was received from Matt and Joanna Schrupp, 905 23rd Street Southeast. Mr. Schrupp indicated that he was previously assessed for an overlay on 23rd Street in 2010, and it was against his long side, as indicated on 23rd Street, long side having a 1 foot difference versus the short side. Per the policy, the short side was assessed as presented in the assessment roll, and since no improvements were completed on 23rd in front of his property, there was no assessment for 23rd. However, the footage we did confirm based on the plats and documents at the county does vary by 1 foot. So the policy is relatively clear, and as a result, from a staff recommendation, we're recommending that the property be assessed as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the property.
Tom?
How is this one compared to his neighbors, that he said was for $900 for foot, what was done when his neighbors, if that's the corner lot, when that last road was done?
So his neighbor that's assessed for 900 feet has the long side on the improved side, so we assess 30% of the long, or that $900. That's where it came from. So in terms of the assessment, In Matt's case, if his south side would have been the long side, that also would have been 900.
So, last time was he assessed 100%? Do we know if he was assessed at 100% or what the corner lot was? Because we get a lot of questions about the corner lot every year. And I think it was Don Baker brought up, said nobody will want to be buying houses on a corner lot if we're charging 100%, you know, each time, you know, getting assessed. You know, we did it back in, what was it, 2010? His other side, now we're doing it here now, 13 years later, you know, giving the full assessment. Something needs to be done on these corner lot, on our calculations. And we gotta get it compared, fixed up from the last time too.
Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This property seems unique in the sense that it was assessed basically under two different policies in a relatively short period of time, and they were assessed for about for the property owners, like the worst possible scenario both times for them. And I guess, you know, as we've talked about, like, some uncomfortable feelings, like this one strikes me as something just doesn't seem quite right in that process. And I understand that you're bringing to us what the policy would dictate. But kind of what Councilmember Butterfield was maybe getting at too, like it seems unjust that they were assessed the 100% both times, whereas if that short side would have come up this time, they would have had that 30% reduction and would have been in line with their neighbor. My understanding of that is correct.
Correct.
I'd like to add a motion in to reduce at least Mr. Schrupp's by 30% this time.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. I have to ask this question. Are we in any way putting the city in jeopardy by making these changes? Robert?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll say this. Minnesota statute requires the uniform application of your assessment policy. So the city engineer has presented their recommendations that are a straightforward application of the assessment policy as it is written. Of course, the council can decide to deviate from that assessment policy. Down the road, the council can choose to revise that assessment policy, which it has done in the past, which has maybe led to some of the confusion we see today and in previous years on why things were assessed differently previously. So there is a potential exposure of liability when you're choosing to deviate from the assessment policy, but that would take someone to bring a legal action against the city claiming that it was not evenly and appropriately assessed citywide.
Okay, Tom?
I just want to make the point, the reason I brought this one up last time, he was charged 100%. This time, we're not going too far. We're just asking for that 30% reduction on the corner lot policy. I think all the city council knows we need the street assessment policy to be reworked, relooked at, and be better for all of our taxpayers, you know, as a whole. So I'm not doing this for any reason except for he paid 100%, you know, a little bit over about 13 years ago on this other side. I think it would only be fair to give him the 30%, you know, on the corner lot this time around. And we do need to work on getting a more uniform thing going forward.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Yep. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Jared, what is the percentage, the split? I think last year was city paid 80 and the residents paid 20 on a mill and overlay.
Yes. So on the overall improvements, and I don't have the exact number here, but I believe that the city's portion is approximately 79%, and the property owners are currently 21%. So it's basically 80-20, but yeah, we're at that level. I don't think any of the changes that council made this evening will reduce the assessed portion below the 20% threshold, but nonetheless, we are assessing the property owners the minimum amount possible while complying with the bonding statutes.
Because I remember back in the day, they used to pay 60, the city paid 40. Then it was reversed, 40 to 60. And now it seems like it changes about every year.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, Council, the final objection this evening is from Richard Hess, 2305 6th Avenue Southeast. Mr. Hess submitted a written objection and objected to the assessment on the 10-foot wide parcel adjacent to his homestead parcel. Prior to the assessment meeting on the 16th, our memo reiterates the rationale and the conversations, but prior to our meeting on the 16th, we did have a conversation with Mr. Hess. Mr. Hess is in the process of combining both of his parcels, and as presented in the original assessment roll, we're recommending that the parcel be assessed $6,000 versus the $3,000 for the 10-foot parcel and the $4,500 for the medium size parcels. So recommending adoption as presented in the assessment roll.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before we move on, I just want to bring up one thing for the council related to special assessments. Whenever Minnesota statute requires the council to adopt written findings for when ruling upon the objections, we have recommended that you simply adopt the written findings of the Bolton and Make memorandum from your city engineers. That will suffice the statute. Otherwise, we would have to look at coming back, and we would propose individual written findings for each of the objections. So if you look at your council packet, there's some language in there on our recommended actions for this, but we would simply need a motion to adopt the Bolton and Make memorandum as the council's written findings for each of tonight's objections.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor Reese?
Yes. Audrey?
If appropriate, I really would like us to make a motion to review our assessment policy and the timeline of this next year, in the spring sometime. And we talked about this last year and we never did it. And I know that I don't know what we need to do to get it done, but that we can have a chance to review the requirements and review those, that document, and also the timeline, because I think the most frustration I've heard is people are really frustrated with the time that they got their notification, the lack of time, I mean, for us to have this hearing, and they need to pay it in a short period of time. So I'm willing to make a motion for that if it's appropriate, or what do we need to do to get it done, because it didn't happen this last year.
I'll second her motion.
You meant to,
I will make a motion to review the assessment policy and the timeline for the notification on assessments.
okay.
What's reasonable to do that? I would say it needs to be done in the spring.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Question for Jared on assessment and the notification. The reason that it comes out so late is because it's much more accurate that way? Is that what I recall you said last week, that if you do it too early, then the cost might change, and so if we do it in the spring, there's more chance for an inaccurate?
I'm just asking to set a timeline in the spring.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Huh?
Okay, vote.
I suppose. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I got a question, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
for Judy. Where do they pay the assessment bill, to you or to the county?
They pay, if they want to prepay the assessment, they come to the city offices, make the check out to the city of Willmar. And we will accept payments also through November 15th. After that, if you want to pay the amount that's, would be certified to the county auditor for taxes payable in 2024, you would pay that amount to the county. If you want to pay the remaining balance, that is always paid here at the city offices.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right, we're going to go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor, we need to adopt the resolution for
Okay.
amending the assessment roll.
All right. We need a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
I'm
carries.
sorry, that's a roll call because it's a resolution.
Oh, sure. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. All right. Again, we're going to go into closed session for labor negotiations strategy meeting. The next agenda item is labor negotiation strategy under Minnesota statute, section 13D03, subdivision 1, clause B. Portion of the meeting will be closed pursuant to such statute upon duly approved motion of the city council. I will now entertain a motion to close the portion of the meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.